Hi, this is the final response for Module 10, Discussion Board, Chapter 8. I noticed in all of our videos that we pretty much reiterated similar things throughout. And so I took notes of some things that just stood out to me coming from the stance of a district leader or a building leader. So Billy, you made reference to not overloading our students with a bunch of rules and making sure that our students feel valued in classrooms and buildings. I know in our district, we are told to have 5 rules or expectations. And I like the idea of having expectations instead of rules and having those expectations written as positive statements. For example, be prepared, be on task, instead of a rule that starts with a negative connotation, don't. This allows teachers to help their students have value in the classroom because it's a positive place to be. And teachers can talk about the value of being prepared or being on task and how it relates to college and career readiness. Correcting behaviors is important, but doesn't always involve discipline. Billy talked about acknowledging the students who were doing right, and while getting the attention of others is important, it doesn't always require discipline. Sometimes we just need to make eye contact with them, stand close by them as we're teaching, or that silent pause that several of us mentioned. Ladina, you talked about the importance of reminding students of rules periodically and having them posted in our classrooms. I know when I was in a classroom, I remember referring to numbers on the expectation chart. I could be in mid-sentence in the middle of instruction, call out a student's name, say the number on the wall, and keep going without missing a beat. And they were able to hear and make a connection to the expectation that I expected at that moment. But I didn't, have to stop instruction. I could keep going. And it took a while to get there and not, lose my train of thought. But it's important that you draw attention to what's needed and move on quickly and see if that will take care of the issue. Confrontation is not always necessary, and sometimes I wouldn't even have to say a student's name. I could just refer to the expectation in mid-sentence, and the students that were off task could get right back on. And it just takes a second to make students aware. Sometimes they just get distracted. Plenty of students get distracted, and they just need to be made aware of what's going on, and they quickly can make a change and get back on task. It's also important to review expectations and procedures periodically. For example, after Christmas break, you've been off for 2 weeks, all the students come back. It's just a good idea to have a day or two where you're incorporating those expectations and class procedures back into the daily goings on or happenings in the classroom, just as a reminder, and it helps you set the tone for the new semester. It's also important because a lot of times first semester you have new students that are coming into the class. Maybe they've moved during the break, and it just helps get them caught up with everyone else. Angela, you reminded us that it's important that we make sure that the students continue to understand the expectations and procedures, because one reason that they may get off and do something that goes against our expectations is because they don't fully understand or know what the procedure or the expectation is. For example, winter takes up a lot of our school year, and students shift into clothing that is for cold weather, and then it starts getting warm again after spring break. And if we don't go over the dress code again around spring break or when they return from spring break, we may see students that are not dressed appropriately for school. So we just need to reiterate what that dress code policy is. One of you also talked about the decluttering of classrooms because some students struggle to think in a cluttered room or in a cluttered atmosphere. So teachers should be mindful of busy looking classes in our decorations, and we should be careful to not have an over-cluttered room where students might feel stressed because of all of the piles and stacks and books and just busyness. So we need to kind of keep a control or keep keep down the amount of things that are in our classroom that might be overwhelming to students.